Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This happened a few years ago before COVID-19. I'm a disabled army veteran who also has PTSD. I'm also hearing impaired and wear hearing aids. I decided to go to Wally World for a few items and I took my PTSD service dog with me. I didn't have my hearing aids as they had gone in for repairs, so I'm pretty deaf. It was hot in the store, so I took off my coat and put it on my rollator. I also have a cane with me, which I use to get items down from high shelves. Unfortunately, I was wearing my favorite shirt, a long-sleeved royal blue t-shirt with a neon green character on it. Funny head, bug-eyed, and sticking tongue out. Something a Wally World employee wouldn't wear. My hair was in a ponytail. I had taken off my disabled army veteran cap because I was hot. So I'm going down the aisle slowly, obviously because I'm disabled, using my rollator with my dog on my left side. I'm a high-functioning autistic with a bit of OCD, so I tend to straighten out shelves as I go. No big deal, right? Wrong. Now I'm doing my thing pretty deaf without my hearing aids. I could read lips if you faced me, when all of a sudden my dog turned around and started pulling. Huh? Then someone behind me pulls on my ponytail hard and almost knocks me over. I react instinctively, haul back with a titanium-plated elbow to the person's gut, then swing up my hand with a karate fist to the person's face. No thought, just pure instinct. Then I grabbed my cane from the basket of my rollator, spun around and got into a defensive position. I had also pushed the 911 alert button around my neck, and I yelled that I had been assaulted and location and so on. The 911 replied that cops were being dispatched. There she was, getting up from the floor with a bloody nose, a wild Karen. She screamed, "Help! I've been assaulted by an employee!" I roared back at her in my drill sergeant voice. "What makes you think that I work here? I have a rollator and a service dog. I don't work here. You assaulted me." "Yes, you work here. I saw you straighten up the shelves," Karen insisted. "That doesn't mean that I work here," I yelled. "I have OCD and like to straighten up things." "Quit lying. You work here and you assaulted me. I am going to get you fired and you're going to go to jail." My service dog is going crazy and barking. I'm very upset and crying, and my service dog is trying to calm me down. Store employees, a manager and security come, and shortly the police. We went to the store office, they put us in separate rooms, and the police review the tapes and one takes my statement. A nice female store employee is with me in a room because I'm crying and very upset. The security and police finish reviewing the camera footage and ask me if I want to press charges, and I definitely say yes. Karen gets upset by this, kicks the police and resists arrest, and I find out that this is not her first offense of harassing and assaulting customers or employees. So she will be serving some long jail time. I get a $250 gift card from the store, my service dog gets several bags of treats from the store as well, and I get profuse apologies from the store manager. Me 1, Karen 0. It all went down on National Go Skate Day, June 21st, at a notorious skate park somewhere in the United States. Well, let's keep the park's identity a secret, shall we? We wouldn't want anyone snooping around looking for the protagonist of the story. Now, this park was known for attracting some of the worst skaters, the kind that cut each other off, yelled, fought, and generally created a hostile environment. I had a mission that day to persuade the shop at this skate park to carry my skateboards, but if my favorite shop wasn't there, I swore I'd never skate in that hellhole of a park again. So I did what any smart skater would do. I arrived early, hoping to dodge the mayhem. Well, that plan quickly went south. I had 4 collisions with other skaters within minutes. It's always hard to tell who's at fault in these situations, but I was willing to let it slide. Still, I felt a growing sense of tension. I decided to drop into the pool, thinking it would be a sanctuary of sorts where skaters go one at a time. I was just getting the feel of it when this kid, let's call him Kyle, starts yelling at me from the top of the pool. "Get out of the pool, you douche! This park is for good skaters. I need to warm up for the local board shops contest. You suck. You can't do any tricks, and you have no shot at winning." Well, I thought, great, just what I needed. But I knew it was still my turn, so I ignored him. However, Kyle's voice cut through the air like a razor. "Locals only, you jerk! Don't let me see you step on that board again in my park." I decided to put my board away and got ready to call it a day. And then a devious idea crept into my mind. I own a skate company, and rumor has it that skate companies sponsor anyone who can pull off a kickflip. So I decided to let it slip that I was scouting for talent to recruit my team. I cheered on some kids, had one-on-one chats with them, and told them that I was scouting talent. Within half an hour, kids from all over the park were flocking to me, eager to introduce themselves and learn more about my skate company. I had created quite a buzz in that contest, and everyone was talking about me and my company. And then, amidst the swarm of skaters, Kyle came over to talk to me. "Hey man, I'm sorry about earlier. I was just excited, that's all." "I get it. I'll give you another chance. You said you're competing, right?" "Yeah, I'm here to destroy these losers." "Alright, listen. I watched you skate a bit while I was talking to people. You're really good. The kind of talent we need on our team. I plan to keep an eye on you, so do not disappoint me. By the way, what's your name?" "I'm Kyle. And hell yeah, I got this on lock." As it turned out, Kyle was indeed a very talented skater, though I had no intention of recruiting anyone. He was undeniably good. As time passed, the contest began, starting with a best trick competition on the A-frame obstacle. During this event, there was no coordination on who went when, as the shop staff just called out tricks for the skaters to perform. I had my camera trained on Kyle, recording his every move. It was clear he was still skating like a total jerk, yelling at people, pushing them, and even hitting someone with his board. I captured every confrontation on video, but I didn't plan to share it. I didn't want to start a witch hunt. Kyle ended up landing third place with a remarkable big flip over the A-frame. Impressive, right? However, he was outperformed by a kid who executed the tail slide and another who did a kickflip into a board slide with a shove out. I say, "Hey Kyle, I saw your big flip over the A-frame. That's a tough trick, and I'm impressed. Do you have something special planned for the next contest?" "LOL, it's called skate, you idiot. It's like horse, but for skateboarding." "Hell yeah, I got something." I was a bit annoyed, but I had to contain it. "Yeah, anyway, I'm excited to see what you can do," I replied. The rounds of skates began, and I continued to closely observe Kyle's performance. This is where the real drama unfolded. Kyle continued to act like a jerk, taunting his competitors, yelling obscene comments to mess with their concentration, and even pushing them when they missed a trick. He celebrated his success and blamed his competitors for his failures. He was, in a word, insufferable. He made it to the third round but was eventually eliminated. In frustration, he threw his board across the park, narrowly missing someone, and he stormed off. When he returned, I offered my congratulations on making it to the third round. "Good job making it to the third round, man. I really like some of those tricks you pulled off. I recorded a lot of them, and I'll edit all the footage from today to show you later." "Whatever. That douchebag who beat me cheated. Everyone knows you're not allowed to do body varials." "Well, get him in the next event." "Oh hell yeah, bro. I've got that race locked down." His way of speaking, littered with cuss words, grated on my nerves. I could tell he sensed my annoyance, attributing it to his loss. The next event was a simple race around the park, with the best time winning. Kyle, however, wasn't even close to being a contender. He was slow, had poor form, and seemed weighed down by the pressure I was heaping on him. He even shoved his way to be one of the first to go, only to watch in dismay as a group of skaters outperformed him. Whenever someone appeared to be doing better than him, Kyle started yelling and screaming, even throwing sand onto the course, for reasons known only to him. I decided to give him an easy out, a plausible excuse for his poor performance. "Hey, it looks like you need new bearings. You were losing speed consistently, but your form was great." Yeah, but my mom's being a pain and won't replace these terrible bearings. Screw her. Well, listen, man. I've got to grab something real quick. A company emergency. Will you be here in about an hour when I get back? Of course, dude. Was that I left for lunch and during my absence, I noticed an empty deck in my car. Perfect for my next move. Upon my return, I signaled Kyle to come over. Oh, no way! Is that for me? Did I get that spot? Hey, yeah, but first, come watch this video. I want to show you exactly what I've been paying attention to all day. I showed Kyle the video beginning with his big flip and continuing with all the moments he had been a jerk. Throughout, he made excuses and offered half-hearted apologies. Then I told him, here's the deal, Kyle. I love your skating, but I expect better behavior from anyone on DJ Skate's team. If you can go make amends with all those skaters before I leave, we have a spot for you. Those losers idolize me. They'll be ecstatic to see me on your team. Alright, go make up with them and tell them to come see me. I want to hear it from them that they are okay with you. I spent some time talking to the shop owners, explaining to them how I couldn't sponsor someone who behaved like Kyle had. Then as I looked back toward the park, I noticed a familiar sound growing louder. The wailing of sirens. I didn't think much of it until police officers rushed past me, pinning skaters to the ground. The chaos erupted and the officers began asking people what had happened. Kyle lying, I was just skating, minding my own business, and this guy beat me up for no reason. I didn't do anything to provoke him. The kid who had beaten up Kyle, not only did he come over shoving us and demanding we apologize to him for cheating in the contest, but he also wanted us to tell that guy we're cool so he can get sponsored. The police questioned me, asking if I had promised to sponsor Kyle if he met up with everyone at the park. So I said, oh, I've got a video for you guys. I showed the police a video highlighting all of Kyle's unsportsmanlike conduct. Then the police started questioning the others. They asked people above 18 if they wanted to press charges and contacted the parents of younger kids to get their perspective. Some decided to let it go, but at least 10 wanted to press charges against Kyle. The police asked for my video and the raw footage, and I complied. An officer spent what felt like an eternity recording my phone screen while the video played using his chest cam. Finally, Kyle was escorted out in handcuffs. At this point, the skate shop was packing up and preparing to leave, promising to respond to my email regarding the possibility of stock in my decks. Kyle's grand plan to secure sponsorship backfired, and he ended up making a dramatic exit from the park in the back of a police cruiser. My daughter's school didn't choose her to be valedictorian for graduation, and she's still salty about it. Her high school normally goes with a highest grade point average, but it can be between the top 5 students if one demonstrates high academic achievement, like winning a competition. My daughter was a leader of and won a national robotics competition, and being the top 1 to 2 students, she was sure she would get valedictorian. But the school broke away from their criteria by choosing a girl who had been in a car crash caused by a hit-and-run driver. The girl wasn't badly injured, but her mom died from the accident and she went on to finish the year with good grades. She wasn't in the top 5 students and only took 1 AP class, whereas most previous valedictorians came from their IB or full AB course load. My son was valedictorian 4 years prior and also did full IB. So my daughter was really angry when she found out because she felt like it was unfair and also thought it was racist because kids and parents had been complaining that only Asian students ever got that award. According to her, the last 80 years it was always an Asian who had won, and while my daughter is half Asian, so is my son. The school was trying to find a non-Asian to appease the families. She said she would have been okay with the other 5 top students winning, but to give it to someone with just above average grades when the criteria was about academics made her feel like she and the other 5, which according to her were all Asians, were discriminated against. I don't know if this is true, and I understand why it's unfair and even agree with it to an extent, but the girl lost her mother and still finished the year with good grades. That should be recognized. Also, the valedictorian had been made public, and if my daughter tried to get it overturned, it would make her look like a sore loser. I did explain all this to her and told her she was going to MIT already with a partial scholarship, and everyone knew she was smart, so she needs to accept that sometimes not everything will happen as she wishes. She was extremely angry at me for not going to the principal about this, and my wife was also angry because she felt like this school discriminated against our daughter. She's now in her first semester at MIT, and while she likes it, she says most people in her classes were valedictorians in their high schools, and she feels like she was robbed when she worked so hard for it. I thought she would forget it, but she seems to still be angry about it and not as close to me as before. Am I the jerk for not talking to her school about this when I could? And now some comments on a post. Someone saying, "Nobody's in the wrong. Your daughter earned it, and it sucks that she didn't get this honor. That being said, what do? Make a scene to strip a car crash survivor of the honor and face a public backlash? The optics are horrible. In fact, the backlash you and your daughter will get will be remembered long after the graduation, while the other student being valedictorian will likely not. Your daughter mentions many other kids at MIT were valedictorians and she feels cheated. But MIT doesn't grade you based on your prior status as valedictorian, it's what you do in class. This honor will not change her application status. She was already admitted to MIT, congrats by the way, and how she does it MIT will have nothing to do with the title of valedictorian. I wouldn't blame her for being upset, but you are not to blame for trying to save your daughter from the grief of being a bad loser, even though she obviously is not. If it helps, you can discuss with the school how unfair this was as a policy matter. They could have made both of them make a speech or something like that. It may have been discrimination, and it wouldn't be unwarranted to bring it up without needing to embarrass the survivor or your daughter or your entire family. Another commenter adds, "What could you have done? The only thing would have been to try to make such a big nuisance of yourself publicly and internally that they give in just to make the headache go away. I doubt it would work. And as you recognized, you ribboned the award away from this poor girl who lost her mother and still pulled through the school year. Wouldn't be surprised if that ended up making national news, since it would certainly play to the reader's emotions, not the jerk. For one thing, it's just one of many times life will show her that even if you do everything right, life won't go as you please, but that she also should be thankful for what she has and be happy for others, especially since the other girl had a really tough thing happening to her and her circumstances were more difficult and she still achieved something great. Your daughter is still valedictorian whether she gives that speech or not. And for another, she's in MIT. Nobody is going to care about whether she was valedictorian. They are going to look at her college performance. Whether or not she goes to graduate school, when she enters the workforce a few years down the line, nobody is going to care about her going to MIT. Once you've worked a few years, your performance is what employers care about. A third commenter goes with, "Not the jerk. A situation like that, where you and your daughter tried to strip a girl who survived a car crash and parental loss of the title, absolutely would have made the news and gone viral. I'm a PR professional and former journalist, so my prediction on how it would have gone down? Badly. Really badly for her. She'd get no public sympathy when it became known she'd already been accepted to MIT. The perception, fairly or unfairly, would be, what more does this kid want? And on the heels of the Supreme Court dismantling affirmative action, your family/she would have also been exposed to racist abuse online. There's literally no way a fight like that does anything for your daughter's future, because if she's pushed it, sure, she might have gotten the title, but she'd have lost so many opportunities. Maybe if you explained it to her in these terms, she'll see why it was smart you held your peace. Does it suck that school deviated from its usual procedures? Yes. Was she robbed? Likely. Is your wife right about the racism angle? Also likely, and in no way excusable by the school district. She's allowed to be disappointed. Your wife too. Validate that, and it sounds like you did. Is it a lesson in what it's like to be a working adult, where you see people less skilled than you being promoted? Absolutely. And honestly, in this case, she could also learn to be happy for people less fortunate than her when something good happens to them. She can be both disappointed she didn't get it, but happy for the other girl. She's got a bright future ahead of her, and in 5 years, no one's going to remember it. Have your daughter focus on graduating summa cum laude. It's much more impressive on a resume than high school valedictorian, which most employers know has wildly different definitions across the country. So this happened not too long ago when my boyfriend and I decided to go fishing at a public park. It's one of our favorite things to do on weekends. There is not a lot of fishing spots with a lake for miles around, so we usually head to this one particular park. We love catching catfish, and this park is known for having lots of them. We had just settled into our chairs, all ready to catch some catfish, when the trouble began. First, let me introduce you to the cast of characters. There is me, my boyfriend, and then there is the entitled mom, along with her 3 entitled kids, entitled kid 1, 2, and 3. My boyfriend and I usually like to take a little walk around the lake before we pick our fishing spot. It's during one of these walks that we spotted a massive catfish, easily about 4 feet long. We were excited and ready to start fishing, but then the peace was shattered by the arrival of the 3 bratty kids. They set up about 8 feet away from us, right near a spot where turtles like to sunbathe. At first, they started messing with the turtles, and my boyfriend, being a nature lover, couldn't stand it. He shouted at them to knock it off. Instead of listening, they walked over to us, and one of them was holding a dead snake, a pine snake to be specific. Now this really upset my boyfriend because pine snakes are endangered in our state. He ignored the snake for a moment and told them to put the turtle back in the water. The response, "We're not hurting them." My boyfriend insisted that they were disturbing the turtles and that's not allowed in the park. The entitled kid number 2, the one holding the snake, carelessly said, "Who cares?" My boyfriend, now getting increasingly frustrated, told him that he cared. He asked him to put the turtles back in the water and inquired about why they had killed the snake. They claimed it was because the snake was poisonous, which did not make any sense since there are no poisonous snakes in our state, and pine snakes are harmless. My boyfriend reiterated that they shouldn't have killed the snake, to which they once again heartlessly said, "Who cares?" At this point, my boyfriend informed them that they were disturbing the wildlife, which is not allowed in the park. He gave them an ultimatum: leave or face arrest. And that's when the kids pulled a classic move of deflecting by saying, "But you were killing fish." Now that hit a nerve with my boyfriend because we're conscientious fishermen. We either release a fish back into the water or, if necessary, we kill them humanly. He explained this to them, but the kids wouldn't back down. So my boyfriend got up and with determination he walked towards them. The kids, fearing the consequences of their actions, quickly scampered away. We thought that was the end of it, but boy, were we wrong. About 30 minutes later, the kids returned, but this time they brought reinforcement in the form of their mom. The most stereotypical Karen you could imagine. It seems there is an abundance of them in our state. She immediately confronted us, asking why we were harassing her kids. My boyfriend explained to her that her kids had killed a snake. Her response? "But it was self-defense." My boyfriend, now exasperated, corrected her, explaining that the snake wasn't dangerous. However, Karen was not interested in facts. She was convinced she knew better and dismissed his knowledge. Then she noticed the giant catfish we had caught, which had us really excited, but Karen had other ideas. She accused us of abusing animals, and my boyfriend tried to explain that we had all the proper licenses and that we treated the fish humanly. And that's when Karen decided to take matters into her own hands. She ran up, grabbed the catfish, and hurled it back into the water. We were both shocked and outraged because that was theft. My boyfriend informed her of this, and Karen claimed that the fish didn't belong to anyone because it's a living thing. We told her about the law that stated once you catch a fish, it becomes your property, but Karen was having none of it. She started yelling about how fishing should be illegal. Then she did something truly outrageous. She ran into the water, made a gigantic splash and shouted, "No more fishing!" This was clearly harassment and my boyfriend called her out on it. But Karen never wanted to back down, accused us of being the real criminals. At this point, my boyfriend decided to take action. He informed Karen that she had committed 2 crimes, and he was going to perform a citizen's arrest and turn her into the police, which is legal in our state. I think the realization of how serious this was started to get dawned on her because my boyfriend was much taller and more intimidating. In a panic, she reached into her purse, pulled out a can of pepper spray, and sprayed it twice into my boyfriend's face. I couldn't stand by and watch this happen, so I ran after her and she rushed to her car, kids in tow, and we managed to keep a hold of her until the police arrived. The police arrived and they took Karen away in handcuffs. We went with them to the station to press charges. It was quite an ordeal and we couldn't just leave the entitled kids alone. So we stayed with them until their father arrived to take them home. Karen was definitely not going to be heading home anytime soon. I had a problem with my neighbor for so many years. He was the kind of guy who terrorized the whole neighborhood, a real troublemaker. To make things worse, he was a drug addict and dealer, but that wasn't my problem. At least it shouldn't have been. His actions brought all sorts of unsavory people into the area, and they did all sorts of terrible things, like breaking into houses and cars, stealing packages, and causing chaos. I knew it was connected to him because he had confessed that his friends were the ones causing all this trouble. I'd even seen CCTV footage from other neighbors showing his buddies damaging cars and property. He wasn't content with just causing mayhem in the area. He had stolen bank cards that came in the mail, made an obnoxious amount of noise that would wake me up in the middle of the night, and his friends or fiends would often ring my doorbell around 2 or 3 a.m. I had shouted at them so many times and even argued with him about it. What made the situation even worse was that my neighbor had been in prison multiple times for various serious crimes. You'd think he tried to keep a low profile as a free man, but that wasn't the case. We lived in a house converted into apartments, with 4 units and a main area downstairs for walking through and where mail was delivered. He constantly left the main door open despite me asking him not to, allowing his friends to come and go as they pleased. Sometimes they would even kick the door down and trash the area. The worst part of all was when I would order a package, and if I wasn't home, the couriers would leave the package unattended in the front garden or the main area outside my door, despite my explicit instructions not to. My package would disappear within seconds, and I knew it was my neighbor and his friends. This had been going on for years, and when confronted, he'd deny it, but I was certain it was him. The other 2 apartments in the building were occupied by older people whom I was friendly with, and they also disliked him. The problem was that I never had any concrete proof to pin him down. I once called the police after he wrote a note apologizing for his friend stealing my package, but that went nowhere. This time I wasn't going to let over 250 pounds worth of stolen packages go unanswered. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I set up a security camera in the main area, I saved the boxes from some other packages, placed an apple and some plastic bags in them for weight, and set them outside. It didn't take long for his friend to snatch them up, not realizing there was a camera watching. Gotcha. I called the police, who commended me on my surveillance skills, and they arrived, but by the time they got there, the guy had already left the building, taking bags that were definitely filled with drugs to sell. However, they assured me they would keep an eye out for him. A few weeks later, I received a call from the police. I also informed them that I was absolutely certain he was selling Class A drugs and terrorizing the area. They said they would come to visit. 5 days passed, and at 7 a.m. I received a call from the same officer, asking me to open the door quickly and quietly. I did as I instructed and saw about 15 plainclothes officers hiding behind the wall. I looked through the peephole and then they stormed inside, kicked down his door and arrested everyone inside. It turned out his apartment was basically a crack house. They seized boxes of drugs, All of this was caught on the camera I had installed. So I sent the footage to the landlord, and the police also got in touch with the landlord, and as a result, my troublesome neighbor was evicted. That was a month ago. None of his email had been picked up, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Anyway, is the moral of the story here? Well, keep your hands to yourself. So, I have a story for you of my time working at Walmart. This is when I first started out at Walmart back in 2014. I was assigned to the electronics counter. It was near nighttime and the photo center was closed. It was only me at the stand while others were on break, somewhere in the store or at lunch. Plus, business was slow, so it was fine when I was by myself. But oh boy was I wrong. It was about 15 minutes that passed when a teenager, the entitled daughter of our story, came up to the counter and placed a cell phone and a box on the counter while I was helping a father, who will be my hero in this story, and you will see why later. I asked the father if he would be alright by himself while I helped another customer, and he was fine with it, browsing the children movie section. I was about to ask how I can help her, but she just held her hand up at me. I remember this very well when she did that.
I want a refund on this phone. It doesn't work with the plan I have,
the entitled daughter says. I looked at the phone and it was a Walmart plan we run with T-Mobile. It's usually not the greatest, but it's a good start on a cell phone plan before switching to the bigger ones. And when I looked at the receipt, I already knew this was going to be a handful. To those that do not know, all electronics items can be refunded, but you have to return it within 15 days to get it, especially when it's cell phones. Other items are usually 30 or 90 days, depending on the department. And when I looked at the receipt, it was way past the 15-day policy. So, I couldn't return it. I tell her, I'm sorry ma'am, but I can't refund this, as it has passed the 15 days return policy. And oh boy, did the entitled daughter not like this.
What do you mean? My mom and I were here a few days ago when we got this thing.
I'm sorry, but I can't. I'm looking at the receipt on the day you purchased this cell phone and it's way past our policy. I am sorry, but there is nothing that I can do. The entitled daughter lets out a growl and huffs before storming away with the cell phone and receipt. I sighed deeply and leaned into the counter. My hero then came with a few movies and saw the whole thing. That's pretty rough to deal with, huh? I just laughed at that and scanned his items. Oh, you have no idea, sir. And this is just my first month here. We both had a good laugh, and when I gave him his receipt, I saw the entitled daughter once again. But this time with her entitled mother in tow. I knew I was in trouble. The entitled mother shrieks, "You!
Why wouldn't you give my daughter her money back? We brought everything."
I understand that, ma'am, but you passed our return policy. Even if I scan it, the serial number wouldn't be in our system anymore. The entitled mother then yelled at me to get the manager while calling me a few colorful names as well. While I phoned management, the mother and daughter had a smug grin on their face like they had one. And soon a manager came by and asked what was the problem.
Yes, your employee was rude to us and won't refund my daughter's cell phone she paid for a few days ago. I want my money now, and this brat fired.
Seriously, who does this over cell phones? But then again, Walmart. Wally World is also crazy people world. The manager looked over at me and I tried to explain what was happening, but the entitled mother kept interrupting me while calling me names until my manager saw the receipt. One look at the date and he knew what was up. Okay, ma'am, two things. One, do not cuss at my employee. She's doing her job. And two, you bought this phone a month ago. We can't refund you for the cell phone because the serial number is no longer on the system. This is our policy. The entitled mother and daughter frowned at that and then started to cuss at me and my manager for not helping them and not letting them have their money back. My hero was watching the whole thing and he stood between us and them. Ma'am, you need to calm down. And you need to control your daughter as well. He tells him. The entitled daughter says,
This is none of your business.
Then her mother adds,
And why should I do what you say about my daughter? They are the ones that won't help us.
She points at me, my manager. What happened next was something that I still remember to this day. My hero pulled out his wallet and showed a police badge. He was an off-duty cop. He tells him, I suggest either you two calm down right now or so help me. I will escort you both out in cuffs. This is no way to act out in public. You need to set a better example for your daughter and you need to control that mouse of yours, kid. The entitled mother and her entitled daughter were dead silent and pale before grabbing a cell phone and a box, then running off. My hero turned over to us and apologized for not stepping in sooner. My manager told him it was fine, but I was still dumbfounded that I was helping an off-duty cop. My hero gave the manager his badge number in case those two came back and then thanked me for suggesting a few Disney and DreamWorks movies for his kids. He told me he had a young son and a daughter. Before leaving, my manager asked me if I was okay and I told him I was still baffled that my hero was a cop and I didn't know that. And what was also funny, karma at its finest, that a few days later the entitled mother and daughter did the same thing again, but at a different Walmart, and they were both arrested for assault on an officer and resisting arrest. My hero was talking to my manager while I was on lunch and then told me when I came back. So my hero, if you are out there or reading this post, thank you for helping me out that night. A close friend of mine is getting married in April. She selected 4 of us to be in her wedding party in addition to her sister. We're all in our late 20s/early 30s. I've known her for several years and already knew that her wedding, whenever that day happened, would be elaborate. She wants to do group activities with all the ladies, including a mini trip away into the mountains for spa things, wine tasting and hiking. Although I did mention that a mountain hike in a week/months leading up to D-Day is ill-advised. I was totally stoked and grateful, until she told us that she hired a trainer and nutrition coach for the bridal party, meaning weekly workouts and tailored eating plans and so on. She says she just wants us all to look our best for the pictures and fit into the dresses. She's worried about bad atheistics. I think this is a bit over the top and kind of inappropriate. Only one other bridesmaid had spoken up besides me, but she super quickly changed her tune after the bride said that she'd already spent so much money on everything. I'm recovering from anorexia/orthorexia and no one in the party knows about it because it's none of their business. I'm not comfortable with this at all. And honestly, all these women, including the bride, are so vain and body conscious that I can't bear the next 6 months listening to them. I told her this and she wasn't happy at all, played the "I've never had a special day" card and reminded me that she's paying for literally everything and I'm being the ungrateful jerk here. My boyfriend softly agrees because 1, he's a groomsman and it will be awkward, and 2, he thinks if I tell her about my ED, she'll understand. I shouldn't have to disclose that information. So would I be the jerk for dropping out of the whole ordeal and/or skipping the whole event? And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, "You're not the jerk. Eating disorder aside, I'm not making light of your condition. You shouldn't be forced into any situation you are not comfortable with. It's perfectly acceptable to say it isn't for you without having to disclose your personal circumstances. Also, what kind of weirdo hires a trainer and nutritionist for a bridal party?" Another commenter adds, "Not that jerk. You should not have to disclose your medical history to decline the trainer and dietitian. I would say once for medical reasons, typical dietary advice is not a good idea for me. And if that wasn't enough for the bride to drop it, I will prioritize health and recovery." A third commenter goes with, "Your AD is none of her business. Do not be bullied into revealing anything that you don't want to reveal. As for making everyone in a wedding party exercise and have a particular diet, as overseen by someone in the bride's employees so she can manage the wedding's atheistic, this is incredibly intrusive and quite offensive. I would suggest that you tell her that you don't want to participate in a training and so on, with zero explanation, and that if she needs you to step down because of this, you understand.
In my humble opinion, getting out of being part of this particular wedding will be a blessing in disguise. A fourth commenter adds, "Not that jerk. Even without you recovering from anorexia or orthorexia, it's messed up. The pride cares about the bad atheistics over just being happy that her friends want to be there for her. Working out takes time. Whatever this eating plan is, takes time and probably your money. And she's not in charge of your bodies. I don't think this is your friend, to be honest, and if she's this controlling, you dropping out will be a definite friendship ender. It doesn't sound like you really like her despite calling her a close friend. Your boyfriend should have your back rather than be concerned about this being awkward. I'm not saying he needs to drop out of the wedding, but he should be furious. This jerk pride is dictating so much for no reason."
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.